Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Tetley, and I'm joined by my colleague Mark Oden. We are communications leads for STARS, and we are here today to talk about scam calls. March is Fraud Prevention Month, and because STARS has lotteries and several other fundraising events in market throughout the year, our good name is often used by scammers. So we thought it would be a good time to highlight how prevalent these calls are, to provide advice on how to know when someone is attempting to scam you, and suggest some steps that you can take to keep you and your loved ones safe.
We're really glad to be joined today by an expert in the field. We have with us Jeff Thomson, Senior RCMP Intelligence Analyst with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. And Jeff is going to walk us through what we need to know about scam calls. So thank you very much for joining us today, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing some fraud prevention awareness messaging.
So let's jump right in. How big of an issue are these scam calls for charities?
So scam calls, direct call solicitations is still the number one marketing method we see used for fraud. Prize scams last year accounted for about 3.5 or 3.6 million in reported losses. And they do use legitimate company names that do carry out lotteries like yourselves.
It seems as though it might erode trust on some level.
That's the idea behind using reputable company names is to build that trust with the victims, right? It's like, look, this is the real company calling. This is a legitimate company, legitimate charity calling that does run a lottery. So that instance of trust is kind of built by using the legitimate company's names. So once they do find out that it is a scam, yeah, it can certainly impact victims.
How do you know, Jeff, if you are receiving a scam call? What are some of the clues?
Unsolicited calls, lotteries you haven't played in, foreign lotteries, and requests for cash. The scammers are very good on preying on people's emotions, and with prize scams, they're preying on that prize, that elation, right? So when they do get this call, in some cases, they may not remember exactly which lottery they played in, but they know they've played some lotteries lately, and they're willing to accept that call and accept what that person's telling them. And again, just that sheer emotion of elation, right? That I finally won something, like think about all the good things you're going to be able to do. The other catch is always that you can't tell anybody about it, right?
So what would your best advice be to people who are receiving those calls? Do they just hang up? Do they take notes down? What's the best way for them to approach these calls?
We certainly don't encourage engaging with the fraudsters. If you've received a call that you suspect is fraudulent, we certainly want you to hang up, disconnect, say no. And really, at the end of the day, we want people to slow down and not react to sort of these urgent offers. So in a lot of cases, these prize scams can be high pressures. Like, congratulations, you've won. You just need to do exactly what I say now to get your prize. And we know this isn't the way most legitimate charities or lotteries work, right? You're going to send out registered mail indicating that somebody's won. And you're gonna make things official, right? So, and there's not going to be a request for cash today. So people receiving these scam calls, what we really want them to do is document the information: who called them, what did they say, what phone number did they call from, and then report the instance of fraud to their local police and report it to the Anti-Fraud Centre.
How successful is the center in stopping or at least curtailing these scammers?
It's really not a matter of stopping it for us. It's a matter of reducing it. And key to reducing it is raising awareness that these frauds exist and then getting people to, recognize, reject, report. It's the slogan we use. We know scammers need two tools. They need to be able to communicate with their victims, and they need to be able to receive victim money. So if we can refer a piece of information to the service providers who can then say block a phone account or block a bank account, we're effectively reducing the fraud and preventing victimization.
So is there anything else that you're able to add for us today that we might be able to share with our donors, many of whom have been with us for, 3 decades?
What we really want to encourage as well is people talk about the frauds that they've experienced, that we sort of reduce the stigma associated to fraud, right? And by talking about your experiences, you're spreading that awareness messaging.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for taking the time to speak with us today. Thank you for all your advice. And we just think it's a really important message to be sharing with all of our supporters.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for promoting some fraud awareness messaging.
It's our pleasure.